In reflective parenting, you encourage parents to slow down and pay more attention. And let's do that now.
Okay.
Okay? Let's slow down
Okay.
and have you fill us in with more of the details.
Yes, I realize in a way, we've talked around it.
What is actually
Okay,
involved
so
in the toolkit?
yes, actually, sometimes I've even thought about like creating a little mini toolkit, you
Ah,
know. But the so what are the tools? Okay, well, I like to think of the tools as the skill of being reflective, along with what I call 10 guiding principles of reflective parenting. And those 10 guiding principles are all designed to keep a parent's reflective capacity operating well. And it also contains ideas and concepts and things that we know children need. And parents need to be reflective in order to provide them. So they're all kind of intermixed with each other, these tools and skills and guiding principles. And one thing I like to remind you that is that this, what I call the skill, I call it a skill, it's a mental skill of being reflective, is it's a natural, ordinary skill. It's not associated with your socioeconomic background or your education level or race or gender, anything. And it's also something that can be measured. So you can be a Latino grandmother from Guatemala taking care of your grandchildren and have had only a third grade education and be very reflective. You can be a high power hedge fund manager and not be very reflective. So the other thing is that being reflective is something that can be measured. And it's measured through a, a formal interview process and a structured interview, I think it's called. And in that, you can arrive at someone's reflective level, and it's usually measured on a 10-point scale. Not reflective to very reflective, right? But the truth is, you most often only need to be a 5. You only have to be average at it. Not only don't you have to always understand your child or always get things right, but you don't always have to be so ideally reflective all the time. You just have to be average. Now, truth be told, if you have a child that has more special needs, learning disabilities, dyslexia, shyness, being on the spectrum, you do have to be a little more reflective for those kids, like maybe more like a 6 or 7. And also, we know that even the best of us, I'm a very reflective person, but even I, under enough stress, my reflectivity will go out the window, and I have to be aware of that vulnerability that we have. And so the model that I'm going to present, what the toolkit is also helping parents stay as reflective as possible, even in those high stress situations. Okay, so what am I talking about? So the mental skill of being reflective, I break it up into 5 steps. The first step is literally, I tell parents, press the pause button. And you don't have to slap yourself that hard, but press the pause button and bring yourself into the present moment. Slow down, be in the present moment. That's step 1. Step 2 is noticing what the behavior is. And from the perspective of the brain, talking is actually considered a motor action. It's in the motor part of the brain. So just like we make inferences about the reasons why people are behaving the way they are, we also do the very same thing with what people are saying. We don't respond to the words people use. We respond to what we assume is their reason for saying what they're saying. Okay? So you have to actually pay attention to the behavior or to the words, right? Notice what they are. Then you try to think, wonder why they're saying that. Notice what conclusion you've already come to about it and think if it could be something else. And do that for your child and for yourself. And then be responsive to what you've concluded. Okay, it's because they're tired, or it's because they, however I asked them to do something made them feel hurt. A child could you could ask something very reasonable of a child or say something very reasonable to a child, but if a child takes it and feels hurt by it, they're going to be reacting to their hurt, not to what you said, right? You have to be aware of that. So you respond to what you think is going on with your child. I know, like one of my own kids used to be very sensitive to my sighing. You know, they'd ask me a favor or something, and I would sigh. And so I wasn't sighing because I wanted to make them feel bad, but they would feel guilty about having asked for something. And so I would have to remember that, oh yes, my child is responding to my sighing, you know. And so those are the kinds of things we have to be aware of. So then you try out, you respond to whatever you think is going on, and you see what happens. And then step 5 is, if it didn't work, try something else. Try to think something else. And so that's the skill of reflective thinking. Okay, what about the 10 guiding principles? Well, I'm not going to go into all the details about all of them, but the first one is to focus on the relationship. And I've already emphasized that. The single most important thing a parent can do is to build and maintain a strong relationship with their child. The second guiding principle, and I've also mentioned this before, is there's no one right way to parent. You have to really believe that, because it's only by believing that you're going to realize not to be so panicked about doing it your own way or doing it in the way that makes sense to you. The third one is to tolerate uncertainty and ambiguity. We have a hard time with this.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. Uncertainty and ambiguity. And so, I mean, for example, you're stuck in traffic, and because you turned left off of Main Street, and now you're stuck in traffic, and you're beating yourself up. I should have realized I should have turned right. I mean, we all do this, right? And no, it was uncertain. You got to the fork in the road, and it was not clear which fork to take or which turn to make. And that's the truth. It was just uncertain. And the more you can embrace that uncertainty, it's the same thing with kids. It's okay to even say that to kids. You know, I don't know what to do. I don't understand you right now. I can't figure out what's going on. That's okay. In fact, when you don't understand, rather than artificially jumping to some rigid way of thinking you understand or resolving the ambiguity by jumping to some rigid conclusion, you're better off just owning and embracing the ambiguity. You know, it's just not clear.
Sometimes children jump to the rescue of the parent and come up with some very specific ways to...
That's exactly right. Rather than the parent teaching the child, you know, it's just an uncertain situation. It's not clear. I don't know why the teacher didn't call on you today. You know, I just don't know. And I'm not sure how we should deal with that even. You know, it's better to be honest that way. And you know what that does? It gives the child a connection. You're there with them. It's rather than sort of falsely coming up with some solution that may not really fit. The fourth guiding principle is to always use two-way perspective taking. Again, I've talked about this. There's always your way of seeing the world and the other person's way. And with a child, you want to see what their way is. What's their way? How do they see it? You know. And now, doesn't mean you have to agree with your child. This is the difference between, parents get this confused a lot. Sometimes they're worried if they empathize with their child or they validate their child. It's like going along with the child, right? You know, no, I'm sorry, you can't have an ice cream right now because it's almost dinner time, right? I want an ice cream. I know you want an ice cream. Listen, we love ice cream. Everyone likes to have ice cream. You know, you can validate, you can empathize, but it doesn't mean you have to agree or go along with it. Reflective parenting is not permissive parenting. It does help you empathize more and understand more, but it doesn't mean you give in. So guideline number 5 is, I've talked about this before, just be open-minded and curious and flexible. Don't get so worried that you change your mind. You saw it this way yesterday, well now today you see it this way. It's good to be open-minded and flexible because that's just how situations are. Maybe yesterday you just really didn't get it, but today you see it in a different way and it's a better way, and go with it. And guideline number 6 is balance empathy with limit setting. This gets back to what I was just referring to. at Reflective Communities, what we say is parenting involves two arms, one for holding the feelings and one for holding the line.
Mm.
And what that means is children need a balance. They need you to be warm and nurturing and empathic and supportive and all that good stuff. And if parents aren't able to do that, we're helping them to do that. But they also need firm, clear limits and boundaries. They need that for their sense of security in the world. They need that because, they don't really know what to do. Children are not born knowing what to do or how to do it. They really are looking to you. The child's brain is designed to look to you for how to behave, what they're supposed to do, even when they're fighting you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why parents have to also be able to understand, empathize, and validate, but then say, but this is the limit, or this is the expectation, or this is the boundary, and be able to do both. And some parents need more help with one side than the other side. Different parents, different kinds of things. The seventh guiding principle is to promote coping skills, being able to manage your big feelings in difficult situations. This is something that parents are neglecting a lot these days because they're trying to fill in and fix or prevent their child from having any rough spots. But again, it's doing a disservice. Children really need parents who help them learn how to cope with their negative feelings, their big feelings. What are those feelings? Disappointment, frustration, hurt, rejection, all those things. When people have coping skills, then they can really deal with life, because life is going to present them with those kinds of situations. You can't avoid it. Not when you get to college, not everybody's going to be so understanding and caring of you. So learning those coping skills, that's what builds resilience in children. There's a lot of evidence that when people have resilience, probably resilience is maybe even more important than IQ in terms of being successful in life. So promoting coping and competence in your child. The other thing, and this is a little, this is number 8. This is sounds a little simplistic, but again, the research, and all different researchers research things from different angles, but what they found is that just when parents are more positive than negative, kids do better. So we're always trying to help parents focus more on what's positive about their child than what's negative. Focus more on their strengths than their weaknesses. Well, first of all, we all want that, right? So that's what our kids want. And kids just do better. So that's another one of the guidelines that we use. And number 9 is repair relationship ruptures. And what that means is kids can handle it if there's a misunderstanding or even conflict. What they can't handle is that rupture in the relationship, when they feel like they've lost the parent. And listen, parents are human. I like to remind parents, you're human. And sometimes you're just going to be so fed up that you are going to feel like icing your child out or not talking to your child. And we can't always resist it. Sometimes we do it. But if we notice it, that's when we really have to be the parent. That's when we have to be the grown-up. And come back and repair the relationship. Because that's the one thing children cannot handle. They can't handle it when their parent has disowned them in a sense, iced them out, abandoned them. Often kids make an overture to their parent to come back and repair. Mommy, I'm sorry. And you have to embrace that. Sometimes you're too hurt or too angry and you don't want to. So if that's happening, again, I like to tell them, we're just human beings, right? So then at least you can tell your child, listen, I can see you wanting to kiss and make up, and mommy's just having a hard time right now doing that. Even that, at least, is a connection that we still have a bond. Right? And then, of course, you want to reinforce for the child. Just because we're angry at each other, just because we yelled, blah, 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 we still love each other, we're still connected. That children really need that secure. That's what that thing is, the secure attachment that people talk about, is that secure base of knowing, no matter how things get messed up, we're still connected and safe with each other. And finally, the last one is, the guideline is adjust your parenting to the needs of your child, to who your child is, right?
Match.
that match. There's no one size fits all. But again, tongue in cheek, I like to say to parents, raise the child you have, not the child you wish you had.
That's a
Parent the child who's your child, right? And if you have 5 children, you might have to parent them all a little bit differently, right? And because each parent-child relationship is a little unique. Each child needs something different. And each child maybe even brings something differently in the parent. And that's just how it is. That's just how it is. And that's okay. So I think that's the toolkit. I think that's the complete toolkit.
And we will find this in your book.
Oh, it's in my book. I talk about it a lot in my book, and I elaborate more. And actually, in the book, I give all kinds of examples of parents and children, real parents and children, and I give parents tips and guidelines and take-home lessons that they can try at home, all kinds of ideas, and I give all kinds of examples for each of these guiding principles, how it plays out, with kids of all different ages.